How can we define the visual meaning of a cross? A cross is a geometrical figure consisting of two intersecting lines or bars, usually perpendicular to each other. The lines usually run vertically and horizontally. A cross of oblique lines in the shape of the Latin letter X is also termed as a saltire in the heraldic terminology.
What does mankind's history tell us about the cross? Throughout centuries, the cross in its various shapes and forms was a symbol of various beliefs. In the pre-Christian times, it was a pagan religious symbol throughout Europe and Western Asia. In ancient times, the effigy of a man hanging on the cross was set up in the fields to protect the crops. The cross was even considered a male symbol of the phallic tree of life. Thus, it often appeared in conjunction with a female genital circle or oval to signify the sacred marriage. As an Egyptian amulet nefer with male cross and female orb, considered as an amulet of blessedness, a charm of sexual harmony.
What does the gesture of cross symbolize? Cross shapes are made by a variety of physical gestures. Crossing the fingers on one hand is a common invocation of the symbol. The sign of the cross, associated with Christian genuflection, is made with one hand. In Eastern Orthodox tradition, the sequence is head, heart, right shoulder, left shoulder, while in Oriental Orthodox, Catholic, and Anglican tradition, the sequence is head, heart, left, right. Crossing the index finger of both hands represents a charm against evil in European folklore. Other gestures involving more than one hand include the cross my heart movement associated with making a promise and the Tao shape of the referee's timeout hand signal. In Chinese-speaking cultures, crossed index fingers represent the number 10. A cross, the principal symbol of the Christian religion, recalling the crucifixion of Jesus Christ and the redeeming benefits of his passion and death. The cross is thus a sign both of Christian himself, of the faith of Christians. In ceremonial usage, making of the sign of the cross may be according to the context an act, profession of faith, a prayer, a dedication, and a benediction.
Crosscrafting in Lithuania has historically and nationally deep roots. Lithuanian crosscrafting, Lithuanian Lietuvos kryždirbystė, is the traditional national art of crafting crosses in our country. The making of altars and crosses is an important part of Lithuanian culture. Lithuanian traditional crosses are a part of the people's Roman Catholic religion. Approximately since Lithuania became a part of the Russian Empire in the 19th century, these crosses have become a symbol of Lithuanian people. The crosses are intricately carved of oak wood and sometimes incorporate iron elements as well. Their craftsmen, known as kryždirbiai, travel across the country. The most renowned Lithuanian cross-crafter and god carver is the self-taught Vincas Svirskis, whose crosses, once seen across central Lithuania, are now kept in national museums. There are 18 crosses of the most famous Lithuanian wood carver Vincas Svirskis on display in the exposition of Kėdainiai Regional Museum. Lithuanian cross-crafting and cross symbolism were included in the UNESCO Intangible Heritage List. Vincas Svirskis is a unique self-taught folk artist of the second half of the 19th century, who traveled and created in central Lithuania. After the uprising of 1863, he began traveling from village to village and leaving his works on roadsides and homesteads. Vincas Svirskis created more than 200 crosses throughout his life. His crosses were only made from oak. The saints and ornaments were carved from the same wood. His crosses were original, monumental, decorative, and unique in their own form. Therefore, people named him the Beauty Maker. Intangible heritage of Lithuania also is considered as outstanding value to world heritage. Crosscrafting and its symbolism as a unique cultural tradition without analogues in the world in 2001 were acknowledged as intangible cultural heritage of humanity. Very specific cross-crafting tradition and symbolism of it started to develop in the 15th century, when Lithuania, the last pagan country in Europe, officially and entirely became Catholic country. New ideas of Christianity and antique local pagan traditions for a long time were very closely related in the local people mentality. This dualism obviously was reflected in cross-crafting tradition, where can be found symbols of both religions. Later, with incorporation of Lithuania into the Orthodox Russian Empire in the 19th century or under Soviet regime in the 20th century, typical wooden Lithuanian crosses became the symbol of national and religious identity. The crosses for centuries are placed on roadsides, at the entrance of villages, or in some places extremely important, a symbolical meaning to a particular community.
Lithuanians have always been interpreting the meaning of a cross as a symbol of intangible cultural heritage of humanity. Since the 15th century, Lithuanians have built crosses to honor the dead while also paying a tribute for the spirits, hoping for their grace as a token of gratitude or in search of protection and spiritual peace. These monuments are an expression of respect for religion and their nature. Lithuanian crosscrafting and cross symbolism was proclaimed by UNESCO as a masterpiece of the oral and intangible heritage of humanity in 2001. It is a masterpiece unlike anything in the world, which not only bears witnesses to living tradition but is also distinguished by unique cultural expression. In late 2008, this tradition was inscribed on the representative list of the Intangible Cultural Heritage of Humanity, which claims to raise awareness of intangible cultural heritage and highlight its importance, and to promote intercultural dialogue and respect for cultural diversity.
Lithuania actually is the land of crosses. The tradition of building crosses in Lithuania came with the expansion of Christianity. However, the history of crossmaking is also linked to various prohibitions. After the uprising in 1863, erecting and repairing crosses in unholy places, in example cemeteries or churchyards, was prohibited by order of the Tsar. And the Soviet occupation nearly destroyed the evolution of crosscrafting. Not only it was forbidden to build new crosses, but the majority of the ones that had already been erected were destroyed as well. Yet even during the occupation, crosscrafting survived in secret, and these monuments became a symbol of national identity and resistance. During the restoration of independence, some of the old crosses were restored, and the new ones were erected in memory of the exiles and the partisans. In cemeteries, wooden memorials are increasingly being replaced by headstones. Folk monument ensembles are still being developed, with themes ranging from Christian to pagan or secular. The northern region of Lithuania is situated near one of the major towns of the country. Šiauliai is famous for the Hill of Crosses, which holds a large collection of crosses of various sizes. One of the most impressive places in Lithuania where your eyes can feast on thousands of crosses of various sizes and shapes is the Hill of Crosses, the representation of unshakable faith and a symbol of resistance against occupation. If you want to see some examples, you don't need to go wandering around in the small Lithuanian villages though. There is a special place in Lithuania dedicated to crosses, the Hill of Crosses. It is located in the north of Lithuania, not too far from the fourth biggest town in the country, Šiauliai. It's not much of a hill, really, but the place has a significant number of crosses. Once it was counted to be 200,000 of them, but up to this day people are adding new ones. You can add too. The Hill of Crosses was the first time mentioned in the 19th century. It started being populated with crosses after the rebellion against Russian Empire in 1831. Many people were killed and their loved ones began to bring crosses to this particular hill in their honor and memory. Even after being destroyed multiple times by the Soviets, it was reborn soon after because people never stopped having hope and kept adding new crosses. Nowadays, the Hill of Crosses is considered to be a monument of belief by a Catholic Church. It is one of the most unique places in Lithuania, attracting people of all religions and beliefs from all around the world. Pilgrims, people with prayers and requests, artists and handicraftsmen have erected crosses here since the 19th century and are still doing so till this day. The unique Hill of Crosses, which has been destroyed 3 times during the harshest of Soviet years but rebuilt each time, is now reminiscent of the Wailing Wall in Jerusalem in terms of its aura.
Crosses, as a significant part of Lithuanian national heritage, should definitely be preserved and passed to the future generations. There are now special schools for crosscrafting, so carving is learned from other artisans and experience is gained by working independently, mastering the heritage traditions at seminars and creative camps. The craft, which survived the occupation period when crossmaking was prohibited and crosses were destroyed, is now coming to life. The Hill of Crosses, as a spontaneous assemblage of crosses that has been destroyed several times over the last century, is flourishing as much as ever. As if they were echoes, other smaller hills have emerged where people erect crosses either on their own or as communities. When it comes to preserving cross monuments, it is usually the old crosses, shrines and wayside shrines which have survived to this day that people have in mind. They need to protect it not only from the elements but also from theft. They have protected from the weather throughout constant supervision, repainting and restoring them, and building exact copies so that they can be erected at the original location, while the originals are protected by moving them to an indoor museum. The Convention for Safeguarding of the Intangible Cultural Heritage obligates the member states is to encourage communities to protect intangible cultural heritage and pass it on to the future generations. Every time I hold a little cross in the hand, I think not only about its long and dramatically painted road through the mankind's and Lithuanian history. I personally add one more meaning to a cross. It is like a symbolic crossroad inviting us, people of various nations, to choose which road we should turn. Should we remain in the middle of the crossroad with our own dramas and doubts? Should we emphasize the most painful pages of our nation history, or should we choose another road, the one leading us to a more emphatic, understanding, and positively educated world? I would personally like to invite everyone to choose, namely, this direction of the road. Let the cross as a symbol remain a sign of a hope for the better, but not a sign to new conflicts in the new world.